Now, with the recent Twitter ban, Nigeria has joined the infamous list of countries like China, Iran, and North Korea that have over time banned or suspended the use of the American microblogging platform. And I have Atedo Peterside, he's the founder of Stanbic IBTC and president of ANAP Foundation. He joins me now as we explore the wider reputational risk to Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today, sir. And let's first start with your assessment of the developments that have played out so far.
Yes, I mean, the Twitter ban, I think I would like to mention just 4 things to start with. But first is that, please, let's understand that Twitter is an effective, quick broadcast tool. So therefore, it actually can be used to enhance security and safety. Even government agencies use it. Indeed, the presidency was using it. NCDC, people like that have to broadcast information that we rely on. I personally was following NBC and many other government sources. So that's one. We lose that quick broadcast tool and it's difficult to replace. 2, hundreds of thousands of Nigerian small businesses were using Twitter to advertise their products, more or less. It was an effective free advert service for them. When you remove that from them, you affect their sales. If you affect their sales, you increase poverty. Number 3, Twitter is an educative tool. For instance, I can sit down in Victoria Island. One of the people I was following was a senator in the US, a particular senator. Whatever he puts out, I try and read and understand and learn from it. So our youth could sit down here, follow any great person around the world, and learn every day from them, from their tweets. And the 4th thing I was going to mention is probably even the most worrisome. And it's a fallout from the Twitter ban. You see, the ban itself was bad enough, but I think even worse is the threat to punish those who continue on Twitter using VPN. I don't even know which Nigerian law they are quoting. And so it is worrying. I've been in business in Nigeria for 4 decades, and I aspire to uphold every law. It's worrying if people make threats saying there's some unknown law that they're going to use to prosecute people, that increases uncertainty. Uncertainty is bad for investors. That when you're in an environment where people can wake up and invent a law you've not heard about and say they will use it to prosecute you. So those are the 4 broad areas I would like to mention first. Of course, there are several other dimensions.
Yeah, definitely quite a lot here when you look at the points you listed there. But I want to take the swerve a little and talk about ones that are not easy to compute. Things like the reputational risk to Nigeria of this ban. I'd like you to speak to this point.
You see, that's why I mentioned that. You see, the ban itself puts us in a list of countries that I don't aspire to see my country in. That's one. You see, but there's one thing to do the ban and stop there, which means that if people can circumvent it by VPN and go, it's okay. The worst side of it is to say you're going to go out of your way to prosecute people for expressing themselves freely or for using their mobile phone, using modern gadgets to communicate with each other. So I hope you're following me. There's the ban, which is bad enough, and then worse still, there's the threat to evoke unknown laws to punish people. If you're threatening to punish your citizens, how does that inspire confidence in investors, local and foreign? Punishing them for something that everywhere else in the world is not a crime. What message are we sending?
All right, but looking at how the country has been struggling with slow growth, yes, we've emerged from the recession. We recorded a marginal about 0.5% growth in the first quarter of the year, and we're aspiring to see Nigeria grow beyond these levels. And now this is coming at a time where we're struggling to attract the right foreign direct investment into the country. But I'd like you to speak to how we can better compete, especially with our competitors, in a time where we're seeing the African Continental Free Trade Agreement coming on board.
I like the fact that you mentioned growth, because people keep on saying things like the reason the economy is not growing is because of crude oil, COVID-19, all kinds of things. Hang on a second. This economy has not been growing since 2015. And I can tell you that it's not so much about government spending. Government share of aggregate demand is only 8.5% in Nigeria. It's 91.5% in Nigeria's private sector. So if the private sector was growing, the economy would be growing. So why is the private sector not growing? It's partly because of things like this. Almost every 6 months, government brings out a bad policy or a bad measure that hurts some businesses and reduces their revenue, their turnover, and their growth. So today, it is a Twitter ban, which has locked off the ability to advertise their products free. Some time ago, you woke up and you closed the border, the land borders. Small scale businesses who were exporting, suddenly they could not. So then, of course, even earlier, you suddenly say they cannot register new SIM cards, all kinds of problems. People who use the same can't replace it. So you're constantly putting an obstacle out there that hurts small businesses. If we stopped putting out policies and obstacles to stop people from growing their businesses, its economy will grow. Nigeria's economy grew at an average rate of above 8% for about 12 years, from 1999 to about 2012. Even 2014, the economy was still growing above the growth rate of the population. So the point I'm making to you is that it is bad policies, punitive measures. If people take an attitude of something upsets me, I don't mind taking an action that will send hundreds of thousands of Nigerians to poverty. We have to change that mindset. Instead, we should try and engage. If there's a problem with Twitter, can you please bring in Twitter and engage? Not because for the benefit of Twitter, for the benefit of the hundreds of thousands of Nigerians. Also, I should mention that Twitter is what the younger population were using to let off steam to communicate. At a time when we probably want better communication, we are reducing avenues for communication. Do you know what it means when somebody has bottled up anger and he can't bring it out peacefully via a tweet to voice his frustration? It's all bottled up. So to me, if care is not taken, we will lose the important demography that we need to reach very well. And I'm concerned for the government because I think they should take steps to correct the actions and engage with Twitter. You can engage with Twitter. You can even suggest to them people that you think whose activities they should block. You can do all kinds of things. But an outright ban, I think it has dire consequences. And I'm always worried about the negative impacts on the not so privileged. Any measure that's going to send hundreds of thousands of people into poverty, I would plead that the government reconsiders. We're in government to lift people out of poverty, not to send more into poverty. Each time your pride is hurt or something happens, some knee-jerk reaction.